So this is Ace, welcome to Monks and Mavericks, where we go through and deal with a bunch of freaks and weirdos, degenerates we find along the way. We got Dr. Dale Dugas. We'll just call him Dale for the purpose of this because he doesn't tend to stand on ceremony. He is a licensed herbalist, licensed acupuncturist, studied in the Far East as well as being certified here in the North American continent. And we're going to figure out why Chinese medicine isn't a bunch of bullshit, because there's a lot of scams and stuff like that out there. So we'll be getting into deep the jiao and various liniments, differences between them, which are great for bone bruises or muscles and stuff like that, and how those things work, as well as we'll be, if people have concerns about blood clots and stuff like that forming, what's some ways that can be addressed. There's definitely with some recent publications on the current thing, we are seeing some people having concerns about blood clotting and what are some kind of herbs and stuff like that that you could take as a preventive measure. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. We'll try to get to them as best we can. If I miss you, I apologize, but we'll try to make it happen. So we got Dr. Dale, and we'll just let him introduce himself in the next couple minutes, and we'll get at it. Go ahead.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Dr. Dale Dugas, and I'm from the Massachusetts area. I'm a New Englander. I'm a masshole, but I moved down here to beautiful sunny Florida, in 2013, and I've become totally acclimatized to the heat, and I hate the cold and snow now. So for all of you people living in the middle of nowhere or the middle of the heart of winter, I feel for all of you. But it's a beautiful sunny day. It's about 75 degrees here in Florida now. A lot of people know me for being the Jiao guy. You hear, oh yeah, you gotta go see Dale. You gotta go try Dale's stuff.
What is Jiao?
Jiao is the Cantonese pronunciation of liquor. If we were in Mandarin or from the northern of China, we'd say Jew. It's the same character, so it's either Jew or Jiao. Now it's funny because here in America in English, when we speak fast, like people from, Massachusetts. We jam all our words together because it's cold. See, in the South, they open their mouth and they drawl because it's so hot. They're going to go slow. So how y'all doing? We don't talk like that in New England. It's really cold. We got to get this thing done. It's going to be even worse in Canada because it's even colder up there. So that's how we talk.
That's true.
So,
very
of course,
true. Yeah.
I ask my friends if they're hungry. I say, hey, Jeet? And they look at me and go, no, Jew, let's go eat. And my Southern friends go, I don't understand that Chinese you're speaking. And I go, we're not speaking Chinese. Did you eat becomes Jeet. Kind of like Jeet Kune Do Jeet. Same sound. No. And then the last thing is let's go eat becomes let's go eat. So my friends, all my Southern friends get freaked out. But anyway, getting back to Jiaos, when you hear the word, you're either going to hear the word Jiao or Jew. It doesn't matter if it's Dit Da Jiao, it's always 3 syllables, or Dit Da Jew or Di Da Jew. It's just you're either speaking, Putonghua, which is Mandarin, or you're speaking Guangdonghua, which is Cantonese. But most people in the United States and Canada, we know the word Jiao. We know more Cantonese because we had people from Guangdong, come over first. Now, of course, we have people from Shanghai and Beijing, so we have Cantonese and Mandarin being spoken all over the world. But I would say most Westerners know the word Jiao, or at least Dit Da. And the words themselves, they don't mean anything other than, Dit means to fall down, Da means to get hit, and Jiao means alcohol. So it literally means fall, hit, wine. And people be like, fall, hit, wine. It's a trauma wine. It's, it's a bruise liniment. You're taking these liquids. Usually it's a liquid, okay? And you're going to take that liquid.
I can hear you. Give me 1 sec.
Sure.
Keep talking.
For people that don't know what a Jiao is, Jiao, I'm basically taking herbs, putting it into a container, allowing, alcohol and water to dissolve these substances into a. So, that's a traditional one. This is something, these are bottles that I buy for my product. I keep the labels very simple. Why? The big thing is it's about the quality and it's what's inside the bottle, not what the bottle is and what's outside the bottle. So okay. I have no frills, no frills labels, but dude, you're not getting any better liniment out there than if you have mine. And we've got somebody, Don, he's like, my grandmother made this at home. Yeah, again, there's a lot of people who make this at home. I offer both kits. So if you want to make a kit, I'll send you the herbs that you put into a container, add your own ethanol, or you can buy a pre-made version. And so depending on what you want to do or how much you want to make.
In your Iron Palm book, you get into the actual like process and stuff like that of making it.
Yeah.
So that so that you don't need to let it age for 10 years.
No, it's like there's a lot of people out there who say you have to let this stuff sit for decades, and that's not true. I've been taught both, traditionally as well as professionally. I learned from different teachers, from different people. And then I went to school and got a master's degree. People said, "Oh, did you take like a weekend course in this?" I'm like, for 4.5 years. And they're like, "Oh, yeah."
Fair.
And so
with the jowl, sorry to interrupt you. With the jowl, like this is just in like a clear plastic bottle.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. This is like 5-star or something like that.
That's the 5 Photo brand, so that's one you can find. It's really good for what it is, for something over the counter.
I got it in Chinatown.
Yeah, that, $5 or $6, $10, that for what it is, that's not bad. But that is basically a bump and bruise limit. In other words, it's not really for, advanced training where you're trying to train your hands or your arms or your body. That's like a basic bump and bruise. So that's great to have in your first aid kit. That's great to have in the house or school. Why? Somebody gets hit a little, just a little bump. When I say little, I mean little, not huge. But, they've got like a normal size, what we would call a normal size bruise or bump. Yeah, that's a great formula. When you have something
just a question in the chat here.
Sure.
Someone's asking if the jowl gets used over and over, does it lose its potency?
No. What you're doing is you're for potency issues, that's why you either use a dropper, or like a hot sauce bottle. I just happen to have a hot sauce bottle here. But hot sauce bottles have an orifice reducer that, you can just shake out a little bit. So whether you have an orifice reducer or you don't ever take out, you're only using as much and then you don't have to touch it. You either pour it out into your hand or you drop it in your hand or you drop it on the area and then you just rub it in until it's absorbed. So I'm not losing anything. I'm never pouring it out. There was a teacher who said to pour it out into a saucer and use it and then pour it back into your bottle, and that's what you don't want to do. If you put your hands in the liquid and you have excess liquid left over, don't ever just put it on and use it. Put it on your other parts of your body. Don't ever pour it back into your bottle because you have oils and acids from your hands that will break that down if they get introduced into that sample. But as long as you just shake it out or you use a dropper, you're not going to have any problem with that kind of contamination.
And so can you use, would you want to use like a roll-on style applicator, or could you go through and put into like a pump style spray?
Some put them in the pump sprays, but you got to be careful because some people use a lot of resins, and there's 3 big resins that you're going to find in dead jobs: frankincense, myrrh, and something called dragon's blood. And so people freak out when they hear the word dragon's blood. It's like it's nothing but a plant, and it has a very deep red, shiny resin. Once they collect the secretion and dry it, it's this deep red, dark kind of color. Okay. So when we're using these resins, what happens is when you start, putting in more, when I make very strong formulas, so I'm going to use a little bit more resin than somebody else because I use higher resins. They're in the solution. They gunk up, mechanical sprayers and things like that because I don't have they're so small. There's no filtration. So you get these big particles and it doesn't work. That doesn't mean you can't use it. You just maybe have to filter it out, pour it through some pantyhose or some cheesecloth, or, there are scientific filters you can buy that you can pour through to get out.
Could you use just like a coffee filter or something like that?
Coffee filter's fine. A Chemex is great. You can pour it in the top, let it drip into the bottom and then pour it into the container. But do remember, when you use coffee filters and filtration, you are taking out, some of these substances.
Okay. So that was a part of my next question is is that particulate necessary, or is everything leached out as far as the tannins and everything like that?
You want to make sure not to lose it. And, the first couple of years, you're going to just leave all those herbs in the container. After about 2 or 3 years, you don't need those herbs in there anymore. They're done.
So you're probably just better off with like a hot sauce applicator or something.
Right. Or again, there's so many bottles, bottle companies that what you're looking for, they call it an orifice reducer, and it's a piece of plastic that'll fit inside. But, another thing is just to use, it's actually cheaper from some companies is to buy a dropper, because the little plastic orifice reducers are like more expensive. Don't ask why. A bigger object is cheaper than some smaller. But I like to use amber glass. Why? This protects against lice. So this is going to make sure that this, this lasts. People ask, how do you store it? I like to store this up in cabinets or in the refrigerator. Why? It's up away from pets. You got to be careful. Don't let your pets lick these bottles. Sometimes the pet will smell this stuff and it smells like curry because it has the same herbs. But it also has herbs in here to do other things that are very powerful, and you don't want to ingest them. You want to make sure to keep it on the outside. So I like it up in the cabinet, in the fridge. Especially
fridge or freezer? Like, does it matter if it's...
You don't want to freeze it, but I want to, especially for formulas. Say we have different formulas for when you get originally injured, you just got hit and you have swelling, a lot of swelling. We have these cold formulas that we put on that will help drain that swelling with over like a 24-hour period. So what's going to happen is it's going to make you sweat, it's going to make you pee, and it's going to make you poop more. Because that's how you get rid of excess, material, is by sweating, defecating, and urinating. Anyway, you're going to get rid of all those things. Okay, so adding a little bit of coal to that formula you're going to use on a hot, swollen sprain, that there's nothing wrong with that.
So when we're talking about a cold formula versus a hot formula, when you put it on, it has like an evaporation to it. It's got more alcohol.
Not really evaporation. It's more the energy of literally the temperature of these herbs. We're taught certain herbs are warm, certain herbs are cool, certain herbs are hot, certain herbs are cold. And when
is that something that you will feel as a user? Sort of interesting.
Oh yeah,
like if I put it on, it's got capsaicin in it, and I feel that that burning sensation, like when I get Tiger Balm on my unit.
Capsaicin, that actually is so hot it feels cold. These are herbs that actually cool down. They calm down inflammation. Okay, so it's one of those things. It's like we're going to use this to get rid of that swelling. Why? Because you can't heal until that swelling. See, people think pain causes inflammation. No, we've actually figured out the mechanism. Something happens, your body responds with inflammation, and then it's pain. Pain is that third and last thing that happens. So if we get rid of inflammation, we get rid of pain. Or we reduce the pain to almost nothing compared to if we didn't, you'd have a lot more pain. So we're trying to get rid of the swelling. Also, we're trying to move. Why? When you get hit or get injured, you have material, cells, blood that's stuck in an area, and people think that that's not a big problem. They think, oh, it's nothing, it's just a bruise, and I go, it's a blood clot, and the bigger the blood clot, the bigger the chance of that breaking off a piece and traveling to your heart, kidneys, or your brain, and you're going to die. So we don't look at bruising.
It's potentially not very good. Yep.
We don't look at bruising in Chinese medicine as any kind of a joke. Western medicine, oh, that's just a bruise. And we're like, yeah, and the chance of having a stroke or having a heart attack are increased because you have blood that can travel and cause problems. So that's why the traditional, the Chinese systems, they use this. They knew they had to, or they're gonna have problems. And anybody that sees people beating on their body, it doesn't matter what we're talking about, mixed martial arts, karate, boxing, the people that abuse their bodies, beating their hands so that they can't move them, they can't open them, they have these, what are you doing that for? I mean, I feel bad for people.
We'll get a little more into the iron palm and stuff like that later, but I did that interview with Diamond Palm a while back, and I was like, I was like, yeah, these, like, you see these videos where these guys have these, like, it's like a Hellboy style claw, and you're like,
Oh yeah,
there's,
they
there's
can't
nothing about that I want. There's nothing about that I want. Right? It's definitely not going to be something that appeals to women. They're like, and the ones that it does, I don't want to be around. It's not my scene.
Again, I have big, strong, thick, hands. I don't have Mickey Mouse hands. I call it a Mickey Mouse.
They look like they weigh about 5 pounds each.
And people go, wow, you have big hands. So I go, well, I have thick hands. I mean, there's people out there with bigger hands than me.
Yeah.
I'm only 6'1". I'm not that tall, but I'm wide and thick. So when people see me in real life, they're like, wow, you're this big dude. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm big this way, that way, but I'm not.
Like a classic strong man.
Again,
like barrel-chested, right?
Yep. Yeah, like my dad. My dad, he's only 5'9", and my dad, when he was in shape, he had like a 70-inch chest, and a 38-inch waist. So my dad was this weird-looking, he looked like Bluto. He had these crazy shoulders and he went down this little waist. And then he's got 28-inch legs. I got 28-inch legs. So I'm 6 foot tall because of my torso. It is what it is.
I grew up around a bunch of farm kids and fucking cowboys, and you'd hear stories of the old guys who'd like offload 55-gallon drums of fuel by themselves, and you're just like, there's no way that happened. And then you meet this guy, and he's like 65 years old, and you're like, I don't think that I could beat you now. Holy fuck, are you huge? And just like, and you just shake their hand, you're like, what the fuck?
I have been 3 times in my life. Now I'm 6'1", I'm 340 pounds, and 3 times in my life, I have been grabbed by the throat and picked up off the ground and thrown. And people are like, what? And I go, listen to me say that to you again. 3 times, 3 different people picked me up by my neck, picked me up off the ground, and threw me. And they're like,
oh, there's some monsters.
I go, there's always somebody bigger, meaner, stronger, and more evil than you. So, if you can deal with me, you're going to be able to deal with 98% of the world. That 2%, those freaks, don't worry about it.
How, just on the topic of Jow, so is Jow, like the stuff that I have here, the Chinatown Special, 5-star, whatever you said it was, 5 what? What does it translate to?
5 photos or the 5 images. And
okay.
That's one of the actual oldest Jow companies in the world, and they're still making it in Hong Kong. So it's a good format.
Okay. So this is stored in plastic. Is there an issue with storing with Jows in plastic versus a glass? And the reason I ask is like water bottles as an example with the BPA in them.
Water bottles are bad now. Of course, when we're talking about
do you wind up with a similar leaching effect?
That's the thing, is you want to minimize any leaching of anything. So I like to store long-term in stainless steel, but that's me, and I'm doing this for, commercially. So I have like big, 8 to 10 gallon stainless steel, like almost like a milking container that would be sealed. But it's more like.
And there's no concerns about heavy metals or anything like that getting leached out?
Stainless steel is not reactive. You're not having any reaction with stainless steel.
Okay.
If you use,
because I'd heard about people using like ball bearings for iron bond, and it fucks them up.
You got to be careful if you're using, like, you can't use anything that's chromium plated. That's a no-no.
Okay. It was chromium they were talking about.
It's going to chip off, and then it's going to powder, and then you're using a solvent. You're putting a liquid made out of ethanol and water in your hands. That dust is going to come out of your bag if you have a regular bag. That's going to mix in your hand. And you're going to get chromium, and you're going to die of heavy metal. This is not the kind of this is like hexane or hexalin chromium. It's not the kind of chromium we need. We need chromium to live, but not this kind of chromium. So it's it's a heavy metal. That's why you want to make sure you're using a special bag, either waterproof or what a lot of people would do is they would take whatever they're hitting, they would take a huge truck inner tube, they would seal one end, they would put the medium in, they'd seal it. So in other words, you've got this thing sealed in a rubber inner tube. Then you take that and you put that inside of a canvas bag and seal that up. So now your stuff's not going to come out. It's going to get sealed in there pretty well.
You can just use contact cement for that? To seal that up?
Contact cement or anything. I mean, making something waterproof is pretty easy. It's just, what do you want to use for that inner layer? That's all.
Awesome. And so with the plastic versus the glass, and you use the amber glass, with the plastic, are we concerned about leaching out some? I think they talk about like phytoestrogens or whatever.
Like for short term, like if you want to take your joust somewhere, for a tournament, or you're going to go to another school and you're transporting from the house to the school, or a workshop or seminar, the plastic is fine. I don't like plastic long term. Even the plastics that are safe. There's plastics for, laboratory use where you're using solvents and acids, and, these things don't dissolve. So if you're going to use plastic, I would make sure that it's high quality and that it's made to hold that substance without any chemical interaction.
Sure. So there's, go ahead.
I was going to say it's the same with people that use isopropyl alcohol versus ethanol. They use isopropyl alcohol to get around liquor laws. They think it's okay to use isopropyl. It's not. Isopropyl alcohol breaks down into acetone in your liver. So the more you use a gel that's got acetone as a base, the more you're making acetone in your body, and over time you're going to poison yourself. It's not good. So
yeah, that's a bad
do not
thing.
want to use isopropyl ever. And there are very famous makers all around the United States that use isopropyl alcohol in their medicines, and it's not good. It's a no bueno situation.
Okay.
So
how is it? There's you can have fun correcting my pronunciation. So there's two formulas in addition to this one, and I honestly just banged my shin on something at work the other day and put some of that on, and even within overnight, and that stuff's pretty weak. Even overnight, I was like, this hurts way less.
Yeah.
So I use that, and like I said, that's just a China store special or Chinatown special, not anything to write home about. But there's two other formulas I use for various stuff. One I think in Cantonese, the Cantonese for it is bak sayao, which is white flower oil.
Yeah.
There's two versions of it. The one I usually get is it's a vial. It's about like this, and it's round, but it's thin. It looks almost like a liquor bottle. It's got a blue lid.
Yeah,
it smells a lot like
very strong oil.
Yeah, I usually what I'll do if I'm sick is I just put it on my mustache before I go to sleep.
If you have a sore throat, I will put 1 or 2 drops in my throat, and it will numb your throat.
I believe it.
Only 1 or 2. It's very strong. It's better to put in a little water, mix it up, and then drink the water, and then it's going to open you up. It's going to open your nose up, and it's going to open up stuff. So you got to be careful.
I've found that one is very good for headaches or either temple or
anything up on the head, because when you're using the theory in Chinese medicine is when you're using something that smells very strong, they say that those kind of things are very moving. So
it definitely opens up the sinuses.
So you open it up and everything starts moving. Why? Pain is stagnation or stasis.
Okay.
So whether you get hit or whether you have a headache, it doesn't matter. Both are caused by circulation issues. And if you open up circulation, it usually reduces pain and you feel better. That's why we're using jiao. Jiao is made up of herbs that move blood, herbs that take away pain, reduce pain. Herbs.
So I've found that one doesn't do like that one. Like I said, really great for opening up the sinuses. When someone asked me what it was, I was like, it's like Vicks Vapor Rub, except without the Vaseline. It's the stuff that makes it smell.
There's no
paraffin. And I found good on the temples, good on kind of back here for tension headaches, and clearing out the lungs.
It could be a little strong for the front of the face, the back of the face, and your chest and your neck is fine. A lot of people will put it on their, just like Vicks, they rub it on their chest and they smell it. But I found that on the chest as well, for sure. But on the face, it could be a little too strong. There's another oil called Posamon. Posamon is a cinnamon oil. It's a cinnamon-based oil.
Okay.
It's a little lighter. Lighter meaning it's not on fire like the white flour. So the Posamon is it's a little better for the face because it won't light you up. White flour lights you up.
It definitely does. There's a blue and there's the other one, the green formula, and I don't know the difference between them. But I definitely know. It's peppermint oil, like lavender oil, and tea seed oil.
That's like the
There's some
base
eucalyptus, I think, in there.
A little bit
yeah.
sometimes, but it's more that peppermint and
Yeah, that's
and,
what it smells like. For
and
sure.
lavender, and you're like, whew,
And maybe Vicks Vapor Rub isn't a fair comparison. Maybe like like
I mean,
Watkins or something
Tiger
that's a
Balm
little.
and Vicks Vapor Rub are similar.
Okay.
But Tiger Balm has paraffin in it. That's a petroleum product, so that's a carcinogen. So you got to know. I have to tell patients, hey, look, this stuff in California, they say it causes cancer. Don't freak out. I just want to let you know.
Yeah.
People say, really? And I go, well, if you use it every day, all day long, and you coach yourself with it, yeah, you're gonna have a problem. So just use it when you need it.
Okay.
These are medicines.
I found that I found that formula doesn't work that well for kind of the sore muscles, but on the chest and stuff like that, on the nose, opening it up. Where there's another one that I use. There's two other ones. The one's called Zengushu, which I think is a Mandarin.
Yeah, Zengushu.
Yeah, it's red lid. It's got a clear kind of bottle.
It
white
literally
label.
means, the translation is true bone water.
Okay. So I don't find that it does much for my bones. I find it's really good for muscle, though.
Yeah, it's mostly cinnamon and some other moving. And again, moving. So in other words, when you rub it on, it's going to cause a systemic. Wherever you apply gel or white flour or Tiger Balm, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to have a systemic circulation increase where you applied it. So blood, lymph, all these neurotransmitters, you get this neurological soup that's going to get moved in and around these areas wherever you're applying this.
Okay.
That's going to cause, again, a decrease in pain, an increase in circulation in that area. So you might notice that you put gel in your hands, but you start sweating. And you're like, why am I sweating? I'm not running around. You're not running around, but you just put these substances on your body that move blood. So all of a sudden your blood starts moving, and you're like, holy crap, this is making my circulation increase just by, you're not doing anything. You're just putting it on your body.
Okay.
And this is what helps you get better, because it's going to get rid of all the bruising and that dead blood. It's going to break down that blood clot. It's going to get reabsorbed. So these are why we use liniments in martial arts. We know that we're going to get hit. We want to minimize the risk of harming ourselves.
So does it matter if you're front loading it, if you're putting it on before? Like, I mean, if I'm going into do a Muay Thai session, am I going to cover myself head to toe with liniment?
You can. I mean, some people, they'll wait until the middle of a session when they start feeling a little, ouchie, ouchie, okay,
Sure.
put it on then.
Sure.
Come on. Other people wait to the end, put it on. Other people put it on before, during, and after. Who's correct? They all are.
Sure. And yeah, fair enough. And then there's another product. My date, she's a Filipina, and she uses this stuff, and it's green. It's like as dark green as like peppermint schnapps. I can't remember the name of it. And I don't know if it's a Filipino one or if it's a Chinese one. I'm sure you've seen it, though.
Is it a little green bottle?
The bottle's clear, but the liquid is so fucking green it probably stains the glass.
That like Eagle brand medicated oil. So it's something similar.
That's it.
It's something similar to the white flour. Menthol, camphor. Again, these things that warm and that irritate, that cause a reaction when you put it on dermis, and it just causes everything to move.
So how is it that a formula like the Zengushu or the Eagle brand or the white flour, how is it that a formula like that differs from the Dita gel, right, where it's like a bone formula?
You're talking something that's for basic or very minor injuries. So we have like a grading system we have to look at. Okay. How injured are you? Oh, I hit my hand and it's just a little stingy. Okay, you're going to use a formula that's what we call like a basic formula. It's just got some herbs to move blood, maybe a painkiller or two. It's a very simple formula, and that's basically what you showed. That formula is what we call a basic formula.
This one's a basic formula?
The herbs in there, you're going to find them in every freaking formula of Jiao. It's just certain people add other herbs, and this is a formula for that. they put the other herbs. This is a formula for that. So I have formulas for the head and neck, and I have formulas for your feet because we have different herbs that go up and down.
Okay.
I've got formulas for the fingers. Why? They have a lot of joints they have to get through. So you're going to be using a lot of herbs to try to get through these joints to make things work. You know, same with your toes, but I have to go down.
So if somebody's, you know, like I've spent years working in trades and around trades guys, and you wind up seeing those guys, they got these big, thick fucking hands, strong as anything, but, you know, from being on the wrenches and stuff like that, you know, the arthritis starts kicking in. Is it one of those things where it's too late, or can I start using a deep jowl on that?
You would always. I've had people come in. You know, like I was treating a lot of vets a few years ago, and you know, these men were like 60 to 99, and the guys that were like 80s, they were like the older guys. You know, they
greatest generation.
Yeah, they had fingers that were like 90 degrees. You know, some of these guys had 90-degree tips, and they still could function. And I was amazed, and I gave them free jowl. I said, here, I want you to try this, because they would always say my hands ache, you know, my elbows, my knees ache. And I said, just rub this on the, you know, where it hurts. 2 weeks later, I see this guy. He comes in, he goes, I need some more of that bug juice. He called it bug juice.
Whatever you want to call it, it works,
He was like, dude, it took the pain in my hands away. And he was crying, because he's like, my hands have been like on fire for the last 20 years. And all it did, dude, was one of my formulas for 2 weeks, and his hands stopped burning. You know, and then he was telling everybody,
that's life changing.
You know, I had
will it go through and deal with like I got a crooked finger and I got another one that a horse stepped on here and shit like that. Will it go through and make the swelling and the knotting around the joints go away?
It does. And, you know, I've got things that are for, you know, that can get and move, and I apply it. There's a lot of massage involved, too. It's not just the liniment. It's, you got to make sure that you're getting all the fibers. You know, you have to understand how muscle fibers work. Like a lot of people, muscle fibers run this way, so you need to make sure that you go across them as well as down them to make sure you're getting, you know, that area work. You have to make sure, you know, if you're having finger issues, there's a lot of tendons that go all the way up to your shoulder that could be affecting those. You know, again, are you talking flexion or are you talking extension? Why? You're talking a different set of tendons and muscles.
So you can wind up getting it working for like a carpal tunnel, or can provide relief for that.
I've had people come in,
tendonitis.
You know, they look like this, and then 3 months later, and then 6 months later, and then a year later, they don't have any issues.
Okay.
So, but it took.
And then you said with a.
You know, I had to do a lot of acupuncture and get in some of the nerves, because it's nerve issues in these tendons that are just, they're tight. You know, and so
you have some formulas that'll help for the back as well, too, yeah?
I've had multiple people that use my formulas for back, whether internal herbs or jowl, and it fixed their back pain. So again, what's pain? Pain is something that's not moving.
You just need to kind of loosen it up.
If I get circulation in an area, then those nerve cells go, hey, wait a minute, this isn't as you know, serious. And then, the inflammation goes down, and when the inflammation goes down, your pain receptors start to relax.
Okay. And then so when we wind up with like guys who are doing judo or jujitsu, right? They wind up with fingers that are all kinds of fucked up. I actually stopped playing gi because I didn't like getting my fingers all jacked up.
You get jammed, you get them twisted, you know. So I tell people all the time.
And so the deep jowl and stuff can help with that.
Plus, I give them exercises, because there are different tools we use in the Chinese martial arts to train our grip. And when men are having, like, if they break their fingers or if they've been twisted, I tell them, hey, guess what? You need to go get you got to go get a set of balls, because you're going to be playing with your balls. This kind of exercise,
physio, right?
Yeah, this kind of exercise is a passive way of opening and closing all those fingers and, you know, tendons, joints, muscles. So if they're having, you know, issues, I want them to open their hands and close their hands.
Perfect.
You know, and then we work on that, and then all of a sudden, 2 months later, they're like, "Hey, I feel good." And then I have trained a lot of BJJ guys just on my claw and iron finger program. Why? A friend of mine asked me, he goes, "Do you have anything to make my fingers stronger?" Because he's like, I'm always grabbing geese, or, they're grabbing my geese, and, I'm having finger issues. And I said, yeah, sure. And, so we started playing with, they call these Baoding. Baoding is the city where they're from. So Baoding, if you go to baodingballs.com, you're going to find different,
Those ones look like they're wood?
These are copper.
Is that wood or copper? Okay.
They're very heavy. So, but other people, what they do for finger training and hand training is they have a catch bag.
Sure.
This is about 10 pounds a shot.
Okay.
So we toss.
That's what they call a chi na bag.
Or what they say is they say jiao bao. Jiao is claw, and bao is like envelope or bag. So jiao bao.
Okay, that's Cantonese.
We say claw bag. So you're learning how to grab it and squeeze.
Sure.
And again, add this with the medicines and these exercises and these tools, I can get rid of those issues.
Do you have have like some short videos on those exercises people can do in conjunction with your jiao?
I teach them, to people that are patients, or they come for me for. I do a lot of this privately. People, they contact me privately. We train, whether online or in person, and I show them these exercises.
Might be worth going through and filming some of those exercises. Just have them on a little YouTube playlist that you can kind of send to people. Like someone's like, hey, my hands are all kinds of fucked up. I've been on wrenches for 40 years.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of be like, oh well, try this formula and then this kind of thing. That'd be good.
Usually, if they've been doing something for so many years, it's not just. I'm not just going to give them a liniment. I'm going to give them an internal, and then both an external and an internal, and that gets you better much faster.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really good. And so, what types of ingredients would be different versus the bone formulas versus the something like a Zengushu or something like that?
Zengushu is simple. So you've got like cinnamon, dongguai, and I think one other herb. I think there's like 3 or 4 herbs.
It definitely smells like faraway spices.
Yeah. So you're using a lot of the stuff we actually put into like dressings and marinades. We use them in Chinese medicine, except we're not going to be soaking a ham in it. We're going to be soaking ourselves in it.
Sure.
So it's kind of funny. I tell people, do not drink the liniment. It smells like cloves, cinnamon. You smell. It smells like jerk. If you ever been in the Caribbean or the islands,
masala.
The curries that these people make, dude. These are the same herbs. It smells like food, but it's not food. It's medicine. And I tell people, don't put it on your chicken, don't put it on your rice, do not ingest these, There are formulas you can drink, but the ones that are very strong, you don't. Because if they don't kill you...
So what happens if I did?
You will vomit your stomach lining up, and you'll probably die.
Like how fast?
Half an hour to an hour. I mean... I put a couple of herbs in one of my formulas, and these are aconites. Aconites are very, very, very strong, and these are alkaloid toxins, so you can't drink them. Using them externally, no problem. But if you ingest it, or if you take a needle and inject these things in your bloodstream, you will die very quickly.
Okay.
So. That
sounds terrible.
Yeah, and I've never had anybody die. I've never had anybody get sick. I've only had 3 people have a skin reaction. Because some people who are very fair, like almost albino, when they
like redheads and
and when they use some of the liniments, sometimes they break out into a rash, or they could be allergic to something that's in the formula.
Okay.
There's grasses, there's leaves, there's tree nuts. There's animals. I mean, we use insects, we use snakes, we use the dubia cockroaches. They call them dubia, but dubia comes from, in Chinese, they're called dubeizhong. That's where we get it from.
Zhong is bug?
Zhong is bug. C-H-O-N-G. Chong is like insect. So dubei means ground beetle, bug. And we use the wine. They move blood. Dude, I'm taking them because I have cancer. I have a tumor growing in me. And one of the herbs in the formula is the cockroach. Why? It breaks up masses. know?
So are you using a topical on that and an internal?
I'm using multiples. I'm using a topical. I have a tumor right here in my throat. So I'm putting on. It looks like goiter. It's not. It's a mixed carcinoma. That's what the biopsy said. It's mixed. So what I'm trying to do is shrink this thing because they're thinking surgery. And the smaller and little, if I can outright kill this thing, even better. So I'm using a topical. I'm taking an internal, and I'm also using, medical cannabis, what's called Rick Simpson oil. I take that at night. It knocks me out.
Is that like Phoenix Tears?
Yeah, it's basically what that is. It's a full spectrum, cannabis.
Yeah, I had some Phoenix Tears a few years back, and way too much.
So it's very strong.
I was fucked up for 3 days.
Yeah, dude, I'm taking it comes in these little syringes.
Yep.
And so what I do is I take it and I warm it up so that it's because it's cold. Warm it up, and then I put like little rice grain sizes on my finger and just stick it in my mouth, and I go to bed. So this knocks me out. So during the day, I don't.
Yeah, I had a guy give me some, and I didn't realize how strong it was, and I wound up putting a puddle the size of a nickel or a quarter somewhere in there on a protein cookie.
Dude,
I've never been that fucked up in my entire life.
You were lucky.
And for 3 days.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're lucky you came down from that high. That's just.
Oh, it was fucking terrible. Absolutely terrible.
I mean, it's about.
And I hadn't smoked grass since they called it grass either, right. So it was
People are funny. They're always like, "Well, how do you function on medical marijuana?" I go, "Well, I'm high right now if you think about it, but you don't know." And people are like, "Holy shit!" I'm like,
"Oh man,
it's not like I sit around and talk like Tommy Chong and go, 'Hey man, how you doing, man?'"
Well, that guy would probably be like that. Regardless,
I mean,
he would just be.
I do
like
say
that.
Like, "Hey bro," I'll go like, "Hey bro, hey brother," "Hey man," but I'm not like that long-haired hippie guy.
No.
The short-haired hippie.
So I tried using just because we're talking about medical stuff. So up here in Canada, marijuana and its derivatives is fully decriminalized. It is. Yeah, so you walk into a head shop and you buy it the way you would with liquor. And so there's products there. So I was having some issues with my lower back. And I went in and I was like, hey, I'll try something, right? I'll try like a liniment. And I'm looking at it and it's like, okay, what is in this that's going to make it transdermal? And the guy's like, well, I can't really, because he's not allowed to give me medical advice. I was like, no, there's no carrier, there's no DMSO. And I'm looking at it, it's just like, some eucalyptus, some camphor, some mentholated stuff, and some CBD. But I was like, honestly, I got better results from using like a Zengushu or something else, and I thought that it was just honestly a fucking waste.
It's different.
What's
up?
I didn't think it did anything because there didn't seem to be anything that made it go transdermal. Right. It didn't go in and I wasn't ingesting it.
I mean,
so
you can rub those extracts on. I mean, I'm a medical marijuana patient. I only get so much, per 35 days. So I saved it up. I saved up a whole bunch so that I could make an extract, like ethanol. Sure. And I used a Mashable butter machine. I put, you have to cook the cannabis first. You have to decarboxylate it. So I had to decarb it. So I decarbed it. Then I put it in the ethanol for like 8 hours. And it makes this tincture. Then I take that tincture and I put it in a pan and I burn the ethanol off. And what is left over is this sticky kind of residue. They call that FSO, which is a full spectrum oil. It's not RSO. So it's a little different. It's not. It's an oil versus an extract. So the RSO is an oil, but it's more of an extract. It's, you're extracting the whole plant into something. But
it needs a carrier to go transdermal, though, doesn't it?
Well, ethanol, water, alcohol. So if you put anything in water and just rub it on, whatever's in that water is going to get transferred into your skin, into your body. I wouldn't use DMSO, dude. That's a very dangerous thing. People tell me stories where they go, I put all these herbs in DMSO and I used it and I almost died. And
yep. Yeah, you will.
yeah, well, I said, that shit pulls into your bloodstream. Some of those herbs have to get broken down. They can't go straight into your bloodstream. But people have this weird thing in the United States, dude. They think, well, no, I want it in my bloodstream, and I want that to work quicker. And I'm like, no, all it's going to do is put you in the grave quicker, because it's not, you don't do that.
I've used DMSO to deal with like some inflammation in joints, but
itself,
it's always like,
by itself.
yeah, like right after I've come out of the shower,
yeah.
My hands are clean, right? Like, and then I wash my hands after.
Real turpentine. There's a company in Georgia. They make real gum spirits and turpentine. It's not synthetic. This is the stuff you use on your body. So you take a little, maybe like a teaspoon, when you have some injury, and you rub on the turpentine. Turpentine has DMSO. It has all these other things in it, so it helps with the pain.
Okay.
But you don't add things to it. People go, oh yeah, I put this in, and I'm going, dude, that's why you dosed yourself, because it didn't get broken down by the liver and then processed by the body. It went right into your bloodstream, and you dosed yourself. And people go, what are you talking about? It's herbs. It's natural. And I go, no. It doesn't matter. You drink too much water, you can die. You can't have this idea that it's an herb, it's natural, it won't harm me. That isn't true.
It's really interesting that you bring that up, because when you're in the performance-enhancing drug sector, the PEDS sector, there's some stuff where like when you take it orally, right? Is it broken down? Is it 17-alpha alkylated, right? Is it methylated, right? So what happens? And in some cases, it's the metabolite of the liver that is actually doing the work, and so you wind up getting a different effect if you go sublingual, right? As in like under your tongue. So I would imagine that it would be even a different set going like through your liver versus sublingual, but if you're going through and rubbing something on transdermal, it might even be a different effect there.
Yeah, it has to get broken down. It has to get filtered through the tissues. Then it's going to get brought down into the liver, broken down into components, and then the body goes, oh, I know what that is. You know, because you're getting back to the jows, you know, people go, well, what's in this jow? I go, five herbs, you know, blood movers, and maybe a painkiller or two. Then when you get into these what we call a training jow, this is where it differentiates. There's herbs for the tendons. You're going to put some of those in there. Why? Because now with your training, whatever you're doing, you're probably doing weapons, long weapons, heavy weapons. You're doing
it can really jack up the risk of you.
Oh, dude, you're probably fighting. You know, you're probably fighting. You're probably sparring somehow. You're rolling, sparring. You know, kickboxing, whatever. It's not just your hands. Maybe your elbow, your shoulder, your hip, your knee. You know, somebody stepped on your foot. Okay. Now we have external medicine. We have internal medicine. How bad is it? You know, I mean, dude, I usually treat people for stress. So people, they call me up or they contact me and they say, I need something for stress. And there's 3 or 4 formulas. I send them one. And all of a sudden, they call me 2 weeks later and they go, dude, I've been sleeping like a baby. You know, and it's herbal.
Sleep is so huge.
Dude, recovery. People have no idea about recovery. They don't eat enough, they don't sleep enough, and they don't relax enough. They just keep the stress on. And then they're like, how come I'm not gaining? How come I'm losing? How come I'm in the hospital dying? Because you're
depending on how your genetics are, if your sleep is all fucked up, you're either going to lose weight or gain weight. Even just going through and looking at your training volume, right? Like, so I know that I'm overtraining because I weigh myself almost every day. If suddenly I put on 5 pounds, it means that my cortisol went up and I'm retaining water, right? But definitely, there's lots of people that are being on shift work and things like that, going through and having a good solid sleep formula. And so people are just having it.
Like figuring what's the problem, you know, is it this, is it that, what kind of stress? And again, how we're taught how to differentiate using these different methods. So I would ask these people different questions. That gives them the information to then say, hey, it's this formula, try this one. And then usually 9 times out of 10, there's no issue. And every now and then, sometimes the formula isn't the one for the patient, and it actually makes their problem worse. And if that happens,
do you have any formulas that are specific for sleep, like as a shift worker and sleep?
No, it's not that. It's not that simple. I have formulas for why are you not sleeping? Are you too stressed? Are you too tired? You know, and then it breaks it down. In other words, you can't sleep because your mind won't relax. It's like the gerbil on the wheel. That's a formula.
That can wind up being it.
Or you're anxious down here and it's going up, then okay, then we got a formula to calm that down.
Okay. Like the current formula that I use for sleep right now is it's called Super Sleep. It's by Weber's. It's 100 milligrams. It's a little bit of melatonin, about 100 milligrams of L-theanine, a vitamin B1 derivative, a little bit of GABA, a little bit of 5-HTP. And I've used a bit of tryptophan before. Yeah, it just kind of like chills me out. I found valerian root didn't work that well for me. It tasted terrible.
Most people don't like valerian, but like passion flower.
Okay.
Chamomile. There's usually find that
chamomile tea. Yeah.
There's a few teas out there that'll they'll help you you're just trying to relax.
Yeah.
Because
so chamomile tea you said is good for sleep. What else do you recommend?
Again, like you said, I tell people try melatonin, try this, try that, and if you have a supplement that has all of it in there, first and foremost, most people are magnesium deficient, so I tell them get on a magnesium supplement, but not a
good old
oral,
DMA,
not an oral. What I tell people is to get the oil, is to get magnesium oil. It's dissolved in distilled water. It's not really an oil, and you spray it on your arms, your legs, and your stomach. And you're going to actually absorb more magnesium that way than if you take a pill. You take a pill, it just makes you poop. But there's nothing wrong with that. If you're constipated, you take the magnesium.
There's
a
supplement you can get fairly cheaply. It's referred to as ZMA, and it's typically
zinc,
it's a zinc magnesium. Yeah, it's usually got a little bit of a B6 in it.
A little bit, just a little. Why? Because your brain, sometimes your brain needs a little bit of blood to relax. But too much, if you take like a whole B vitamin, B complex, it's too much blood in there. You're not going to, it's going to wake you up.
Oh man, yeah. So, like go through. Give someone 500 milligrams of niacin. It's hilarious.
I take high dose niacin. I don't take niacinamide. This is something that
nice. Is that the same as niacinamide?
Niacinamide is the no flush. You want the flush. Why? Because I was having circulation issues. The cancer, this tumors caused me to become a type 2 diabetic. And my blood sugars were all whacked out. I was having neuropathy in my hands and my feet.
Okay.
So I was using high dose niacin for the circulation because it causes micro and macro, circulation increase. And using that drinking coffee, because coffee actually regulates your blood sugar, black coffee. So that, chromium, cinnamon, all of a sudden, no more neuropathy in my hands and my feet.
A buddy of mine, he actually popped in here for a little bit. I don't know if he was still there. Ronan Energetics, Alex Belogan. He was really, really big into the niacinamide, or sorry, not niacinamide, very specifically niacin. And he said, like,
there's a great book. Hold on.
He had said niacin, and I mean, like,
I know you can't
kind of talking to him. What?
But it's
niacin,
the real story, and it's by Abram Hoffer, Dr. Hoffer, Hoffer. So go to Amazon, look up niacin, the real story.
Okay.
It's a pretty big book, and dude, you're taking high dose niacin. Now I don't take the pills; I get the powder.
That's what I have. I have a 2 kilogram bag of it.
So I take it, dude. Well, the first time I took it, it felt like I was sunburned. I was like on fire everywhere.
It feels like getting fucking microwaved. You turn onto like a tomato.
And it won't go away. And it's nothing. It's like, but anyway, what I did is I started.
For relief, like if somebody wants to try that, they're like, this is fucking too intense. Hop in a cold shower when you're feeling that flush.
Take an aspirin. The aspirin will take that flush, the painful flush away.
Okay. I found I was like you're scratching like a meth addict. At one time I'd worked up and I was taking 2 tablespoons of it. It's about 10 grams.
Oh, dude, I was taking like 5 or 6 a day. Or 10 grams. That's a lot.
Yeah, but like that's how I'd kickstart my day. And then I hadn't done it a little bit, and then I went to do it again, and I'm just like, this sucks.
No,
everything about this sucks.
You just have to, again, you start low and then, add up and just get your body, again, it's letting your body get accustomed to what you're doing.
If I remember correctly, I thought he had said that it could function, it could even outperform metformin.
Oh,
I remember correctly.
Also, statin drugs. It's really good for, the heart health.
Yeah.
And lowering.
Good for vasodilation, stuff like that.
Okay, keep circulation and so I take that. I take chromium.
It's also
9.
cheap.
Dude,
it is fucking unbelievably cheap.
It's not very expensive. I think
you can get a kilogram of it for $20. And a kilogram is 2.2 pounds.
Yeah.
I think it's
I got mine from like bulk supplements. They're pretty decent.
I think that's exactly where mine came from. Someplace like that, yeah.
Yeah, I try to make sure I like my favorite brand is Now Foods. So if I'm taking like vitamins or herbs or supplements, I like Now Foods because they've been here in America for a long time. They've not been run up on lots of charges like certain famous companies are like they're criminals. I don't want to be supporting any criminals. So and plus family owned and prices are great and they have very high quality pharmaceutical grade products. So
Now Foods, that's the purple lid, orange label, white bottle?
Yeah.
Yep, that's them. Yeah, that's them.
So people say, where do you get your supplements? I said, well, it's not the supplement. I'm taking Now Foods, so I'm just looking for the best price. And usually I'm getting best prices from some of my suppliers. So I can, say to a patient, hey, look, I can get you that at a better price.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of people that come to me just to order their stuff. They're like, because I give them a better price than somebody else.
Well, I mean, if you're doing it, a lot of it out of your house, so there's a lot less overhead and stuff like that.
Just, I'm drop shipping. I don't have the stuff here.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes I do, like my gals and stuff, but I ran out of books. So I'm actually I have to order you a book and send it to you. Because
I'm looking forward to it.
My publisher, his wife, unfortunately. Yeah, he's dealing with that. So anyway.
Hey.
Don't worry, I'll get you the book.
Yeah, whichever. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And then so just kind of shifting a little bit as far as because we were talking about blood clots and stuff like that. With the current thing, there are people that we shall not mention so they don't get canceled. Right? That's how you know that it's not true, is because there's so much effort. So with the current thing, there's concerns about clotting and blood clotting and stuff like that.
Right.
And so what are some preventative things that somebody could be taking if they, for whatever reason were forced into a situation and may now have concerns about a blood clot?
It's funny because my friends started asking me
like a baby aspirin a day, niacin.
I take a regular aspirin because I'm 340 pounds. So I take one adult aspirin. I'm bigger.
So do you need to dissolve that into water or crush it up or anything like that, just so you don't wind up getting ulcers?
I don't have a problem with aspirin, so I'm lucky. But again, I know other people that they're not so. So you have to take a baby aspirin, take it with food, stuff like that.
Sure.
But if you guys are interested, there's a great way to cut weight using coffee, an aspirin, and taking some mahon. If you can find ephedra or mahon, that's kind of hard to find out. But
so I can literally just go buy flats of ephedrine,
right,
because in Canada it's not regulated.
Yep.
You guys just if I were to come down with one of those in my luggage, I would probably go directly to jail.
I can have mahon live because I'm an acupuncture physician. I'm an herbalist, so I have the training to understand what this stuff is. What you do is you take a cup of coffee, you take one aspirin, 350 milligram aspirin. So 1 cup of coffee, 1 aspirin, and 2 grams of mahon, 2 grams of ephedra. Either put it in a capsule or just put the powder in your coffee.
The old ECA stack.
That's what it is. And dude, this will wake you up and burn fat off you like you're taking steroids. And there's no steroids.
Oh yeah, it's stim heavy.
So
going through. I'm not sure how it is with with that version, I can tell you if you're taking actual ephedrine, caffeine, and aspirin, you got to cycle it because you'll cook your nervous system.
You take it for like a month, and then so take it for 4 weeks, take a week or two off. Take it for 4 weeks, take a week. Always take a week or two off and let your body just come back to homeostasis. But that's that actually keeps your blood flowing. Mahuang, coffee, and an aspirin will keep your that'll keep you from being bruised, and will also help with clots.
Okay.
But also there's Chinese formulas, like some of the formulas we take when we're doing iron palm training or iron body training. When we're doing serious training where you're whacking metal bags and hitting your body with tools, you're not just going to use jowl on your body. You're going to take medicine, and these things, they're going to keep the blood clots from harming you. So these are dipped out pills or training pills. There's different formulas, but it's a complex formula to make sure that you're not going to have problems with any kind of clotting issue.
I wanted to ask you earlier, and I forgot, and you jogged my memory. From an internal side, there's a buddy of mine. His name's Kevin Ramirez from Empower Supplements. And he talked a lot about benefits of coffee, and that coffee is a chelate, and it's good for going through and dealing with heavy metals.
Oh, dude, it's a big time. You will lose a lot of fluids, like excess fluids, when you're drinking coffee. It will keep you regular. We were using it. I was working in an adult daycare facility when I was in grad school for acupuncture. I was working in an Alzheimer's dementia, daycare, and I would take a fan. It's okay. I mean, it is. You're helping. What you're doing is, I'm giving the caretakers a day off, because I would go to their houses, take the patient, and take them to a daycare center so that person can either relax or go shopping or whatever. I'm taking care of their whoever,
Sure.
And it was great because, these people are having memory issues. So I'd have a van full of people who were asking me, where are we going? What are we doing? And I said, we're going to the hall. We're going to play cards. We're in New England.
Love it. Yeah.
So, but again, we gave them coffee every day, uncaffeinated decaf coffee. Why? The acids in the coffee help your brain. They help circulation. They keep you regular. But
so the caffeine isn't the part of the coffee that's beneficial.
It's certain acids. I mean, caffeine for people that can take caffeine, it's not going to harm you. But it's not just the caffeine. Coffee keeps your blood sugar regulated. It doesn't allow these huge spikes and troughs. It makes sure that so coffee is going to keep you even, unless you drink too much of it, and then you start having tremors because you're having too much stimulant. See, tea doesn't do that. Tea has theanine, like in your supplement. That theanine is an amino acid that calms you down. It's in tea, not in coffee. So I can drink a crap ton of tea, and I won't shake. But if I
do find green tea is a little smoother for me. I myself don't enjoy coffee. But
again, if you don't, what do you like? Make a strong tea. You can get your caffeine other ways. Hell, you can take a pill if you don't. It's all good. It's not going to harm you as long as you don't.
Oh, I'm not opposed to stimulants. Like, right? We're fine. We're getting lots of them. Do you? So in the internal portion, no caffeine at all.
Kefir. Oh no, I drink coffee.
Yeah.
I drink really.
So
coffee.
from the you have a big old French press, I think.
I'm a big fan of there's a local coffee company here in Tampa called Java Planet. It's organic, fair trade. And I'm a big fan of the Indonesian coffees because they're low acid, so they don't bother my stomach.
Okay.
Like certain coffees. It's like certain. It's like
a light roast or a dark roast?
I'm more dark roast, and it's like jowl. Usually the jowls you can't see through, they're stronger. And sometimes they can be a little more caustic on the skin, and the jowls are a little more see-through. Usually they're not as caustic. So in other words, there are people out there who sell you something, they call it regular strength. It's not regular, it's diluted. And then what they do is they offer a product they call triple strength. There's no such thing as triple strength. That's the regular strength. So they have the regular strength and the watered down, but they don't use those terms. But that's what it is.
Okay. So in the internal side of Chinese medicine, do you wind up wind up dealing with, heavy metals, and that being the root of kind of some people's issues, where
sometimes,
like tequila, like black coffee is required?
But here in America, most of the time it's gut issues.
Okay.
And people are having digestion issues. They can't digest, or so their gut. And usually, I ask them what they eat, and they tell me they eat shit, they're stressed, and I tell them, why are you eating things that are making you, have things come out of your behind like a rocket? In other words, if you're eating something that causes that much of a violent reaction, why are you ingesting those things? And 9 times out of 10, the people say, because it tastes good. And I go,
yeah, I don't like to be in pain when I'm eating or on the toilet.
Taste is great, but having a rocket ship coming out of your behind, I'm like, I don't understand the connection that that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I would also imagine that would kind of tie into like colon cancer, bowel cancer, stuff like that.
Again, IBS. I've actually, and I'm going to say this, I can't say this word, but I cured 3 people of IBS and Crohn's. But I had to totally change their diet. I had to totally change their lifestyle, and they had to adhere to it. As long as they didn't.
How much of Crohn's and IBS is just a lifestyle?
It's about 80% diet.
Sure.
The other 20 is going to be, it's the stress. And again, if you have a stress reaction, you have to deal with the stress. When people think the other way around, they think, no, it's this problem causing the stress. No. It's the stress causing the problem.
I can say, as somebody that just recently had to deal with a fair amount of stress, that everything started failing. Like, I wound up having like alopecia up in my head. I lost a bunch of my beard, my soul patch. Like, this is all alopecia, so I had to shave my soul patch because it looked like I didn't know how to wear my beard properly. I was getting indigestion all the time. Like you're talking about, like things that I ate all the time.
Yeah.
I had it coming out like a rocket ship.
No.
And so definitely dealing with that stress is a huge part.
I'm amazed that American, Western doctors are like, oh, that's not a problem. And I'm like, that's kind of funny. Like doctors say, eat whatever you want, I'll just give you a pill for it. I'm like, no, stop eating that, and you won't have that problem, and you won't have to take that pill.
Yeah, I mean, why go through and cause yourself problems?
And people say, how come I didn't come to you first? And I usually say, yeah, why didn't you come to me first? I could have fixed your problem like 10 years ago. Again, people come to me last because we're told that I'm evil, I'm a quack, I'm a fraud, and that what I do is nothing.
Well, all of those things could be true, but if it's going to get results, I mean, I don't really care, right?
If it wasn't real, why would they make me get a master's degree and all these licensures and take all these tests? They would just say, no, it doesn't exist, and you can't do that.
Well, yeah. You also go through and you look at, in different cultures, they've had medical practices for a long time and different kind of things, right? It's stuck around for a reason, right? So.
And how did they figure out to take this leaf, this root, this bug, this animal, put them into ethanol, whether you ingest it or you put it on? That's kind of funny how they figured that out. They figured out transdermal medications a long time ago.
I would imagine they probably fucked a lot of people up in the process.
They're changing now. There's a lot more. There's a lot more transdermal. There's a lot more, nasal. There's a lot more sublingual now because they're realizing that a lot of people have gut issues, so giving them the medication orally is not going to work. So can you make it sublingual? Can you make it transdermal? Can you make it, a nasal medication?
Yeah, going through and talking to a buddy of mine, having a conversation with him on the topic of PEDS and HRT a little while ago.
Right.
And things like, as an example, progesterone, you can take sublingually. You can take it, right, just let it absorb that way. But kind of the whole belief around testosterone is it needs to be methylated in order for you to be able to take it orally.
Right.
Because and then it goes through and causes kind of undue stress on the liver and stuff like that. So there's some people, it's a very, very niche thing, they're starting to look at sublingual administration of testosterone for HRT. There's these little packets, they call them, starts with a T, it's like a trunchet or something like that.
I'd have to look it up, dude.
It starts with, it's like a truncheon or something like that, and it's like a little pellet that you basically just dissolve underneath your tongue. And so we were chatting about that the other day, and there's some people very, very niche that are starting to look at it, but that's down the whole of the rabbit hole.
I've watched a lot of Mike Mahler's stuff. He's done a lot of research on hormones, and he does transdermal magnesium, but he also takes various supplements to, increase testosterone naturally. But he
zinc, selenium, magnesium, cholesterol, like egg yolks.
He uses like a DHEA cream. He's got a bioidentical, plant base. So you rub it on, like the inside of your arms and your belly. It's going to increase your DHEA, so you got the DHEA and then you got the magnesium. And dude, those things together make pretty much every hormone in your body.
That's interesting.
So when,
so you're not an advocate of like, I think they call it long jack. Sometimes they call it Tonga, tribulus.
I'm a fan of anything that helps people. Again, if you can take a supplement and it helps you fine and it doesn't harm you, great. But to say that one supplement is like the be-all, end-all, no. Some people are great with maca. Maca is a great supplement for some people. But other people are allergic to radishes, and that's what maca is, a radish. So, I tell people you got to know what you're allergic to, and you got to know what something is. And don't just listen to buzzwords on the internet.
Well, and going through and advertising to guys who want to make sure that their unit's still functioning.
There's raising your testosterone, but then there's also raising your bad testosterone, which is not a good thing. You got to.
So what he's talking about is the difference between free and total testosterone, and if you have too much sex hormone binding globulin, they can jack all that up.
And then you're not making testosterone; you're making D-testosterone, which is you don't like that.
Yeah, the problem with just supplementing like exogenous testosterone straight is you can wind up getting estradiol out, you wind up getting nipple sensitivity, all of it.
Yeah, you talked about PEDs, and right now, like deer horn or antler, you can't. That's a serious performance enhancer. It's an IGF factor, and those are they're like, you take IGF factors, you're going to get bounced off your team. Because these things help you get better and better physically. That's with
the elk antler velvet?
Yeah, so the velvet, they break down these compounds, and what they do is you're spraying it sublingually, and that is gonna cause you over time to create human growth hormone, testosterone and other things.
So with that, like, because I know a guy who's got a out near Tisdale, Saskatchewan. There's a guy. And he farms elk, and he actually sells the antler velvet and the antlers. He slices them very thin. It's almost like potato chips, and sells them to predominantly Korean people.
Right. It's big, and the Koreans are more connected to Chinese medicine than any other Asian, even the Chinese people. I don't know why.
I actually believe he exports it to Korea.
Probably. I buy, because, deer horn is hard to find. There's really good deer horn from New Zealand. And deer horn is full of all these incredible compounds. It's very heavy. It's not good for sick people. So we would never
get somebody sick. Is it deer or is it elk?
It doesn't matter.
For him, he said it was elk.
Any animal that has an antler that has velvet, because the velvet in the springtime is full of all these hormones, blood, and all these, sexual compounds. So you get that in the springtime, and you chop it up, and you slice it up, and you ingest it somehow. That is very, very, very nourishing for the body.
Okay.
And I get either the elk horn or the deer horn, and put it into a solution with other herbs, and I call it the wine of life. And you're putting drops, you're ingesting a liquid, you're making a tea out of it. And I put a lot of deer horn in it, and it creates a lot of power, whether it's sexual or physical.
So do you wind up seeing increased nitrogen retention, increased muscle fullness, stuff like that?
It's
increased
what
recovery.
In Chinese medicine, basically, it's going to raise your yang. In other words, saying you're going to feel good. You're going to, everything. You're going to have power. You're going to have reserves. You know, that's how I look at it from a Chinese perspective. I'm not a Western doctor, so I'm not going to. People say, well, why don't you talk like a Western doctor? I go, because I'm not a Western doctor. So,
well, I mean,
I'm not going to tell
it's
you.
also boring, right?
I'm not going to tell you, oh, it's for this. I'll just say it's for overall health. And you're going to notice overall power, overall, you know, like you're going to notice you sleep less, and you can go more, and you're going to go, why? Because your body's getting what it needs.
So how much of Chinese internal medicine as a percentage would you say is devoted to making men stronger in the pants?
Oh, I'd say about 30 or 40.
It's disproportionately high.
You know, it's
also
people,
hilarious.
It's longevity. They you know, they had them. There's more formulas for the flu, for, you know, like pandemics, like different, you know, so they had pandemic herbs, the flu, colds, and then longevity. And there's tons and tons of different longevity, you know, formulas. You know,
so something like ginkgo biloba, I think so I said, ginkgo or ginseng.
Ginkgo biloba, it brings a lot of blood. It's got a lot of B vitamins, so it floods the brain with blood. So that's why it's good for memory.
So are you better? You said it's got a lot of B vitamins. Are you better off using the ginkgo or just using a B complex?
Again, it depends on the person. Everybody's different.
Okay.
We don't. You see, in Chinese medicine, we don't look at it as everybody. It's, you look at the person.
Okay.
And like, if you had a twin brother and came in to see,
I do actually.
I give twins different formulas. They're not. There's no. Even if you're exact, you're not exact. You're
okay.
You're you, and so you have a slightly different, you know, energetical vibration. People look at me like, what? I go, look, dude, it's not based. You don't give the same thing to everybody. That's Western medicine, and it doesn't work. Some people need more of something. Some people need less. Some people can't use that. Like,
so how if you were dealing with somebody online, like somebody's like, hey, I'm having issues with this. How is it you would kind of get those results? Would it be you go through, okay, we're going to start with the base, and then we're going to be like, get feedback.
You know, I sit there and I ask you questions for almost an hour, and I figure out what's going
Sure.
on. I ask what makes it worse, what makes it better, and then when I have this information, I can figure out what formula, and then I'll start going through, you know, the formulas, and I'll probably come up with 3, and then I'll go through those 3 formulas and ask them very, very directed questions. And I tell them, you have to be very honest with me. If you're not honest with me, I could fucking harm you. You know, and they're like, really? I go, yeah. I go, even though they're herbs, if you lie to me and I give you a formula for one problem that you don't have, I can harm you.
Well, and I mean, if somebody's embarrassed about a certain thing, like a guy gives you a list of symptoms, but he doesn't tell you that his dick's not working.
Let me tell you, I'm an ex-EMT dude, and I've been in bathrooms, bedrooms, in the back of a truck, and we got a guy in there, and we ask him a question. We say, hey, dude, have you had any ED drugs today? And he's like, no, I don't take those. And we're like, good, because we're going to stick this needle in your bag of whatever, and when that shit hits you, it's going to kill you if you got ED drugs in you. Ah! Ah! They scream, they pull shit out, they freak out, because they're embarrassed to tell us that it's like, dude, it's okay. Medical professional.
Just need to know what the situation is, right?
Because if you don't tell me, I can kill you by your, you know, not giving me information or misinformation.
Sure.
So again, you know, I try not to do that. We try to. Everybody gets a formula based on what their problem is, and everybody's different. Even if you got the same problem, somebody has this, other people have that. Okay. And that's what changed this formula. Like, some person is they can't stop peeing. They're just peeing their brains out. I got a formula for that. But what if they can't pee and they're hot? I got a formula to cool them off and then make them pee. You know, what if they're only peeing in the daytime? Okay, I got a formula that balances it out. So again, when, how, why, all this information comes. The same when I'm making liniments. You know, what is this liniment for? Oh, it's a bump and bruise. Yeah, sure. Not very expensive. Here you go. You want an iron palm? Okay. Now we're getting into training formulas. So more bone herbs. Why? Because you're And not only,
absolutely, right?
well, not only iron palm, but then, okay, how about a shin training formula, like a leg jow? So I need to make it that it has bone nerves wide, your shins, tendons wide. You got lots of tendons around your knees and your ankles, so you want to make sure that you're not leaving those out. And then again, down. I need to have these herbs that go down.
Okay.
And so you have a leg jowl, you got an arm jowl. I've got stuff you can put on your head if you want. I've got stuff to put on your feet.
So when we're looking at Chinese medicine, there are certain things like, whether it's tiger penis or black rhino horn and stuff like that.
There's a
Is
lot
that stuff
weird...
actually required, or does it make formulas work better? Is it one of those things where it's just like it's a placebo effect, or is it like, well, yeah, you could use black rhino horn, but you could also use the shell of this beetle instead?
It's not a placebo. There's something about the chemicals and things that are found in compressed keratin, which is the rhino horn. So
could you use a substitute that would get
always,
the same result?
Always. There's stuff you don't need to use rhino horn. Like, anybody who tells you have to use some kind of endangered animal, they're full of shit. And they're not trained. They're an idiot. Like, no. It's like people tell me, oh, you need to use tiger bone. If it doesn't have tiger bone, it doesn't work. I'm like, you're an idiot, and your master's an idiot, and you're spreading misinformation. It's not true. You need bone because of calcium matrix and all those other minerals that are in there. Why?
So does it matter where that animal came from?
No.
And what I mean is, like, do you need to use like the deer bone from the same region as the tiger?
No.
Because there's like something in that bone mineral?
Okay, so I've heard these stories, these legends before, that if you don't get these herbs from that region, that it's not going to work, and it's a bunch of shit. And guess what? It's a bunch of shit. It's bullshit.
Okay.
I've been told you can't use this liquor. You have to use this liquor only made in that area of China. Hey, guess what? I used that liquor that they told me not to, and nobody died. And it worked even better.
So do the results vary? Like, so what the example I'll give is, I dated an Ethiopian girl for about 5.5 years, and she said, we can get all the spices and everything like that, and we get everything brought in, but it'll never taste the same because the water that we use to cook it is not the same.
Well, that's the thing.
And so, like,
so again, it's your solvent. So what are you using? I mean, again, what are you using? Are you making a soup? Are you making a tea? Are you making a tincture? Are you making a liniment? Like, everybody thinks you need to use the highest proof alcohol out there, which isn't true. They flunked high school chemistry. Some substances don't dissolve in alcohol; they dissolve in water, and others dissolve in ethanol. So you need something that's got both ethanol and water. I like to use 100 proof. Why? It's 50% ethanol, 50% water.
Do you wind up having to use non-polar solvents as well, like water and ethanol are both polar versus like a turpentine or something?
I mean, some formulas I add turpentine later, I add vinegar later, so it's
sure. Okay, vinegar as well.
It's all in there. It depends on the formula. Like, I'm gonna scare the crap out of people. Like, people tell me, "Oh, I've got a Shaolin formula," and they come up and they show, "Hey, I got this formula," and I go, "That's not a Shaolin formula," and they go, "But they wear the robes, and I go, "Buddhists don't use alcohol. Buddhists don't drink alcohol. Buddhists won't be around alcohol. So anything with alcohol in it isn't a Buddhist formula. They're vinegar formulas. Buddhists use vinegar. They don't use wine."
Does it matter if that's if it's a rice wine, if it's a rice vinegar, or like you could use store-bought white vinegar?
I have proven all those things to be nothing but myth, just stories and bullshit.
Okay.
You need ethanol and water, or you need an acid. That's what vinegar is. Vinegar is an acid to break down the components and pull it out.
Okay.
But I don't like vinegar formulas because vinegar, some herbs don't dissolve in it.
That makes sense.
But I make them from my Buddhist. Dude, if you're drinking alcohol or around alcohol, you're not a Buddhist. Buddhists don't drink. Just like Muslims don't drink. And if you drink, You're not a good
Well,
Muslim.
that's.
You're not a good Buddhist.
I've met Muslims that do a lot of things, but whoa.
Yeah.
I don't eat pork.
Again.
We draw the line somewhere.
The alcohol, it's funny. It's like, oh, they don't use it, but of course they use it. But people don't know that you're not supposed to use it. They don't know why. And they think, oh, I have a Shaolin sword form. I go, no, you don't. You got some form that get attributed to Shaolin, but a monk would never stab somebody with a sword. Ever. But they don't know the history. Why? Because, anyway, bro, we can get into this in a whole other discussion about Shaolin.
Oh, that's a long rabbit hole, yeah.
But talking about Shaolin,
so,
again, looking at, sometimes you have soaks. People go, what's the difference between a soak and a liniment? I go, well, for all you people that live up in the middle of nowhere in the wintertime and it's cold as crap, hitting a bag full of metal right off the bat is probably going to sting or hurt like hell. So what we do in the cold parts is we would make these soaks. We would soak these herbs in water. You're basically making a tea. And then you got to put your hands in the tea. About 2 or 3 minutes. And then then what you would do is you would rub them dry and then do your training, whatever it is. And then after your training is done, you put a regular gel on it. So that's a soak versus, and people go, meaning it's like a quick gel. In other words, you're going to cook some herbs right then and there, and you're going to soak your hands. And then what you do is you add a little bit of either vinegar or vodka. You throw the soak in the fridge, and that will keep it from going bad.
Okay.
And then that lasts for like a week or two. The soaks. Just
because we're on the topic of soaks, my mom, God bless her, was ranting and raving to me about these little patches you put on your foot, and you put them there, and it turns brown, and it's all good, and blah blah blah. And I've heard of people using there's various soaks and stuff like that, and some are like, oh yeah, you go through and you do this, and the water turns brown. But when you actually go through and look at how some of it is, it's like, well, it's actually turning brown because it winds up changing the anotic site, and you just wind up having rust going in the water.
Oh, yeah.
So is all of that horse shit, or is there some stuff that's good?
I have a few soaks that I make. I make a lower body soak. I make an arm soak, elbow soak. And I've had a few thousand people come at me with, bad ankles, bad, either running or something. And then the elbows are either tennis or golf. So you got, golfer's elbow, tennis elbow. And using a soak, and dude, they're amazed that, all of a sudden, within a month, they're like 100% better. There's no more pain. But again,
so my mom was talking about this as like a pulling out metal and toxins and stuff like that. Is that stuff nonsense?
I don't know. Because that's more like, you're talking about endocrinology, and, I'd have to do blood tests on people, to see what's actually happening with them. I don't know. I mean, I've seen it with my eyes. Okay. And I do have friends that use different soaks. When they have a cold, they do a foot soak with various herbs to pull shit out.
And it's effective?
And it works for them and their patients. Yeah, okay. I'm not.
If it works, it works.
If my patients come in and tell me they're sick, I don't want to put their feet in water. So what I would do is I'd probably give them something, an herb to take. And it's again.
So Big Mitch here is saying that there's some type of detox pad.
I don't know. Again, most of my friends, acupuncture and her friends, we don't deal with these things because they're very weird, because they're taking a little bit of real information and they're blowing it up and making it seem like some kind of godlike miracle.
I guess the question I would be asking you is, within what you do, is there a tradition of that type of therapy and it being effective, or is it generally just seen as, again, hogwash?
Like these patches, back in the day, we didn't have the kind of technology we have now. We would take herbs, grind them into powder, put them into liquor, make like a mud, or paste. We would then take that hot paste, slap it on the injury, and then we would wrap it up to keep it from drying out. And then you would keep this on for 2 or 3 days, and you'd unwrap it and go from there. Usually
I
the
think in
swelling is down.
European tradition we call that a poultice.
Yeah, so they had poultices. They're called gao, G-A-O, gao. It means either like paste or syrup.
Okay.
And people go, how can it mean two things? Welcome to Chinese, everybody. So if it's thick, it's a gao. And if it's syrup, it's a gao because they're both thick. But you're going to take a syrup and you're going to apply paste. You're not going to say apply the syrup. We know if we say apply, it's a paste. It's context. Anyway,
Sure.
So again, we're getting back to transdermal. We're putting something on the skin, whether it's a liniment or a poultice. Because when I was learning herbs, we had a gentleman who was renting space in the school I was training at, and I'm a typical white guy. I don't like to dance. I didn't like the lion dancing as a kid. I hated that stuff. So they made me go work with the herbalist, and so the herbalist
Just weren't drunk enough.
Right now. And he what he would do is he would take like ginger and scallion and chop it up roughly. He'd stir fry it in some wine, rice wine that had salt in it, like cooking rice wine. He would then take this slop, he'd put it into cheesecloth, he'd wrap it up and make this huge ball, and then he would put this thing and use it as a poultice on people. And he would apply it and warm up the area, wherever you were hurt, he would warm that area up with this stuff. Ginger and green onion, it's going to make a lot of, it's going to cause a lot of circulation increase.
Sure.
This little Chinese dude had hands bigger than mine. He had bare hands, and then he would reach in and he'd fix you with what's called tui na. Tui means to push. Na means to grab. So tui na means to grab and push. He would then fix people with manipulative therapy, and they would scream.
As you would.
He would go right through the skin into the problem, and he'd fix it. Yeah, the little old man with bare hands. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd imagine he had quite a few tricks up his sleeve as far as martial arts as well.
But I was a teenager, so my kung fu teacher said, "Hey, look at Uncle Ho." His name was Ho. We would say "Huh," but in Cantonese it's Ho. Anyway, you call everybody uncle or auntie anyway. So my teacher goes, "Look at Uncle Ho." And he goes, "You see his hands?" And I go, "Yeah, they're huge." He goes, "When you see a little person with bare hands, run. It means they have trained hands."
Yeah, you can also probably break your bones in a spiral too.
They're gonna latch onto you, and you're gonna realize, oh my God, they have some serious grip power.
So in the examples of a poultice, is the goal to go through and draw the inflammation out of the skin, or are we trying to increase internal circulation so that it will basically just flush it out?
All the above. So again,
okay.
the first 24, 48 hours, it's just swelling. So you would be using something to try to get rid of that swelling. Now, if you come to me, say, a week after it happened, and you said, "Oh, hey, my shoulder, I did something, it's not as inflamed now, but it just, it's frozen." Okay, so now it's after that acute stage, you don't have that swelling. Now I'm going to use more heat and, more moving things. Why? Because you kind of got this thing that's stuck. Literally. Sure. It won't move. So I'm going to use more.
Yeah, you can wind up having it kind of setting up or something like that there. You got to get it.
Very rarely do I get somebody that comes in with a brand new injury that just happened. That's very rare for me. I usually see them like a week or two after or a month after. And they're still having, issues that they're like, "Hey, this still is bothering me." And because it's been
so when somebody uses, within your area of expertise, the Chinese side of it, do you wind up using any type of alternating hot-cold therapy?
Oh, always. If we have it, if people have access, I tell them, "Hey, do you have a hot tub or pool at your house?" And they go, "Yeah." I go, "Okay, so then, take a heating pad, put the heating pad on it, and then take the heating pad off, go jump in your pool or your hot tub." And 10 minutes, 10 minutes on, 10 minutes in the pool, 10 minutes on, 10 minutes in the pool. That's hydrotherapy. You're causing vasodilation with the heat, everything opens up, and then when you jump in the pool or the hot tub, you're going to cause vasodilation.
Seen some pretty good success. There's a guy at my gym. He had jacked his hand up, and it was kind of post-fight. He's 4-0 right now as an amateur for MMA, getting ready to make his heavyweight debut. His name is Jake Craig. And he had jacked up his hand and because he got the 4-ounce gloves in his last fight. He's like, oh yeah, I'm trying to get this thing to heal. And I said, well, go through and do some alternating hot cold. But I had him do the hot with Epsom salt.
Oh yeah.
And so it seems to pull out the
injuries are great.
Seems to pull out the inflammation faster.
It's mineral salt.
What's that?
People don't understand. Epsom salt is minerals. It's not just one. It's a whole, But it's mostly
okay. So it's not just the magnesium sulfate.
No, dude.
Okay.
It actually it brings the inflammation down. And if you decrease inflammation, you're going to decrease pain. Somebody was asking about pregnant women. Yeah,
pregnant women specifically.
Unfortunately, so some formulas are not safe for women at all. And every vitamin is not safe for a pregnant woman or a nursing woman, because even the basic bump and bruise have blood moving herbs. And again, what is a new when you're newly pregnant, your baby is a collection of cells in the first month or so. So that's basically a big blood clot, and that's what some of these herbs are made to do, is to get rid of blood clots. So they say for brand new pregnant women, don't do this. And once they get pregnant, be careful, because these herbs are so powerful, they can cause people to start giving birth.
A miscarriage or something like that?
And I've had friends in the past, ask for Ditta pills, women, and they were using them like the morning after pill. In other words, they wanted to make sure that they weren't going to get pregnant, so they took a Ditta formula for a week after. And,
that's one way to do it.
It causes women to have their cycle if they're close.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
This is just very rare, but it's funny how, again, people think Chinese medicine. They go, well, who do you see? And I tell them, I see kind of a lot of pregnant women.
Well, yeah, and I mean, there's throughout cultures, right, before abortions were as available as they were, there was still the desire to, force a miscarriage.
Yeah, okay.
In certain situations.
5, for your wife, if she's having their swelling, is just, like we were talking about, Epsom salt. Just get yourself some Epsom salts. I like to use about a cup of salt into like a gallon of water. You don't have to make it hot. Just throw the salt in the water and stir it up, and have her put her wrist, her hands in there, and that will help with any kind of swelling.
So will that also be good for the feet? Like I know some pregnant gals, their feet just
you're on your feet
swell
all
up.
day. I say they're going to swell up, they're going to ache. I go, Epsom salts, dude. If you have a bathtub, go soak your whole body if you can. If not, at least your feet.
Okay. So you're saying with the Epsom salt, it doesn't matter whether the water's hot or not?
It's more about the salt. And if it's hot and swollen, sometimes putting something that's hot and swollen in something warm or hot makes it feel worse. So I tell people, use a cold, like room temperature or cold, and that'll actually, kind of help, get that swelling down.
Oh, that'll do it.
People, little ones or big ones sleeping on your limbs, yeah, that'll help. But yeah, try it.
Yeah.
Epsom salt, it's cheap, and it works for a lot of pain.
So with the Epsom salt, what is, because I mean, like, you wind up getting an ingrown toenail or something like that that's infected, you can soak it in hot Epsom salt and kind of, interestingly enough, just get rid of the infection.
Oh yeah, hydrogen peroxide too. These things that are simple over the counter can destroy bacteria. So, Epsom salt, the salts will kill bacteria, and also hydrogen peroxide will.
We have that for feet. It does wonders. Yeah.
Right.
So the question I have about the Epsom salt soak is, what is happening? Is it that going through and having the kind of high mineral content, it leaches fluid out?
Well, not leeches. It's just, again, it's inflammation. And they know that certain substances cause a decrease of inflammation. So magnesium, potassium, calcium, these things, for whatever reason, when you have, inflammation of any kind, it helps to get rid of that.
Okay. So one of the reasons I'm asking is I know that some guys, when they start doing weight cuts at very high level sports, like a lot of the pros, the pro MMA guys who haven't do some serious weight cuts, one of the ways that they do it is actually sitting in a hot bath of Epsom salt, as hot as you could stand it.
Yeah.
and that will actually be a way that it pulls a lot of the water out without exhausting them in the same way.
So you're going to lose some water weight without like totally killing yourself, like sitting in the sauna, in plastic bags, that crazy stuff.
Yeah, what they had said is it seems to pull the water out of their muscles, but it doesn't make their brain feel dry, which makes you really susceptible to knockouts.
It's because you're not drinking, you're sitting in it, But, dude, it's the cheapest thing. I've had people come in and I said, do this, and then they do it and they're like, oh my God. I'm like, they go, why did you tell me? I don't have to come in and see you anymore. I'm like, well, you're going to come in and see me for other things, but if it's something basic, here's the Epsom salt, soak your ankles. My mom soaks her feet every day.
Okay.
She's 84. Epsom salt.
That is fascinating.
And people go, seriously? I go, yeah, it keeps her feet don't hurt. My own dad does hydrotherapy. He has had back surgery. He's basically crippled. He's handicapped. He has a handicap placard. But he goes into the hot tub and the pool and goes back and forth, hot, cold, and he feels wonderful. If he doesn't get his hot tub pool hydrotherapy, he's not happy, and he's in pain. So
what is the effective temperature gradient on that?
I mean,
because we're essentially going through and trying to create a dilation constriction, make the lymphatic system look like a pump.
104 to 110. That's like a normal
Sorry.
hot tub temp.
Okay. So is it enough that just jumping in, like going from the hot tub into a regular pool, is that enough to create the effect, or do I need to go roll around in the snow?
No. You don't have to do that Wim Hof. That Wim Hof stuff is more mental training than anything. It's like because I do when I go visit my parents. They're about a couple hours away. So when I can, I go down and I'm in the pool with my old man. And we sit in the hot, and it's hot. You're like, ooh, and you're sweating. Which is funny because you're not moving. So I'm sitting in the hot water, and I feel myself sweat.
Okay.
I go in that pool that's about 86, 88 degrees. It's not 110. Woo! It's a total, and so you have that, you have vasoconstriction. So vasodilation, and dude, doing that, it causes systemic circulation increase.
Sure. Yeah, we're getting the lymphatic system to work like a pump.
Same with Jow.
So,
the Jow's doing a similar thing. Is you're using some kind of.
Okay.
If it's just liniment or Jow, it's got stuff that's causing a movement. The heat moves. Cold constricts.
Okay.
So that's why they tell you to put something cold on something swollen. But be careful because you can put it on too long and then you actually burn your skin.
So I myself, I find like growing up, everyone's like, oh, you got a ricin injury, right? Rest, ice, compression, elevate. And what I'll tell you is, I don't do ice.
Yeah.
I don't do ice. I use heat and I use compression. And people can tell me I'm wrong, but I heal up my injury. I get injured a lot.
Yeah.
Or have. And I find that the heat, like you're talking about, gets that circulation going. Whenever I put cold on it, it just stays hurt.
Yeah. We have a joke in Chinese medicine. We say ice is for dead people.
Okay.
Because we wouldn't use ice for anybody but a. Now, Okie 350 is asking, can you do a hot shower and then turn it cold? Oh, yeah.
My ancestors, I'm Scandinavian, hence the square head, and you see it in the Russians, the Slavic countries. Oh no, it's not the haircut, man. And my head's a fucking microwave.
I don't know. I got a big head too,
So you see a big kind of tradition of like saunas and going in, and the Russians tend to use dousing, they call it, where it's like buckets of cold water. But where, the sauna into cutting a hole in the ice and jumping into the water or rolling around in the snow. So you just, I'm assuming you just really need to have that gradient.
Again, you want a difference. It doesn't have to be too drastic, but dude, just a regular hot tub in a pool. That's such a drastic difference in temperature. You feel it.
Awesome.
And again, you're causing increase. And again, you're going to get all that dead fluid, dead blood out of there and, fresh blood in there. So that, the idea is to get as much oxygenated blood circulating throughout your body.
What's a TENS unit? Are you familiar with
unit,
that?
it's a little electro unit where you put pads on and you're putting
Okay.
a current in an area. So I don't use 10 units. What I do is I use an electro unit. Instead of a pad, I'm going to put an electrode on my needle. So I'm going to put needles in you, and then I'm going to put electrodes on my needles, and then I'm going to put the current into that nerve. See, acupuncture isn't magic. Acupuncture should be called nerve puncture because I'm actually stimulating a nerve that's going to piggyback into your brain that's going to cause a healing response. It's not, oh, I hit this point for this reaction. We're doing more and more research that it's all about the nervous system and stimulating a nerve than stimulating a magic point for magic energy to do magical, healing things.
So within acupuncture, how many different kind of sub-disciplines are there, right? Like I've had dry needling done and stuff like that, which didn't hurt when I got it done, but I was fucking bruised after. Sore for a week.
Some people, like a lot of the Koreans, they do hand acupuncture, so they do it all in the hands. Other people do it only, they do auricular only in the ear. I do what's called Master Dome acupuncture. Master Dome was a practitioner from Shandong he moved to Taiwan after the war, and he had a family system, and he would treat like from the elbows down, from the knees down. He wouldn't put needles in the torso or the back, but he would use the face and things. And it's a very strange. I didn't learn this in school. I learned this after school, and I don't do what I learned in school. I actually don't do anymore. I learned Chinese acupuncture. I don't do Chinese acupuncture anymore. I've moved on to other systems that work better for me and for patients.
Okay.
So it's funny. People are like, what do you mean? I go, I don't believe in this magic. I don't believe in magical energies. I don't believe in that stuff at all. It's physical. I'm causing a physical reaction by stimulating nerves in your body and then causing a reaction in your brain.
Okay. So with your system of, I mean, I don't know, acupuncture is fair to call it. Like, is it all needlework, or are you doing?
No.
Like, are you going through and drawing blood as far as
it all depends on the problem.
cupping and stuff like that?
Like, if you come in with back pain and it's real bad, I'm actually going to look at certain areas of your legs, the back of your knees, and I'm going to actually look for a dark vein or a dark spider vein. And I'm going to stand you up on a chuck. I don't know. A chuck is a sterile, like a square pad. So I would have you stand on the pad, and I would actually take not an acupuncture needle, but a bloodletting like lancet, and I would hit these areas, dude, and I would bleed you. And
you're talking like a 16 gauge or something like that.
I'm poking a hole. The blood's going to come out of your body and leak down your legs and go on this chuck, and the people freak out, and then their back pain goes away, and they go, "Holy crap!" Back of the knee. If I see dark spots, I hit them, and then I bleed them, and you feel better.
So do you wind up having to use any cupping in conjunction with that?
Oh, I can. Again, it's not a set. It's never a set thing for anybody. It all depends on what's your problem, where is it, and I don't have to cup people, but a lot of people that are cold and they have circulation issues, mostly women, I cup a lot of women. Why? I need to move them more.
Okay.
Like women.
So Mitch is just asking. Mitch is just asking about with the bloodletting if you need a vacuum cup on that.
It's not that you have to do it. It all depends on if the situation calls for that. Then we can do that. It's not like we do that. Oh, every time we see that we do no. It's like usually bleed. What we call blood. We say blood cupping is usually for a serious injury. Like something's not right, and we have to bleed and cup, because cupping is going to cause a systemic circulation wherever you apply the cup. You have the vacuum. It's going to cause things to go to that vacuum. So that causes a reaction. So if you bleed them and cup them, it's like a double whammy. And so if that person needs it, that's a very strong, you're going to usually have a strong response like that. But
so he's asking an example of a spinal fusion. He said he's had a couple.
Again, I mean, if you have pain,
it can be very.
you know, and you've had long-term pain, then we would try to find out what is the cause. You know, is it the fusion, or is it, you know, is it the scar tissue? What? Again, we would, if we have an area that something's not moving, we try to get that circulation going. And again, usually we get circulation going, and your problem, it goes away by half at least or more.
So how much of the Chinese medicine actually deals with the different humors of the body, like the European traditions did?
I mean, you know, it was different, you know, and so they say that your lungs are metal, your liver is wood, your kidneys, you know, your kidneys are, oh God, earth, you know, spleen, these things. So they would assign these things, and then they would look at the clock, the circadian rhythm clock, and every 3 hours, your energy would go from one organ to the next in a very specific pattern. So it's called the 5 elements. And there are people who do 5-element acupuncture. In other words, everything is based on these 5 elements. Okay. I don't do that. I look at people, I read their face, I read their palm, I take pulses. I take pulses on both wrists, I read your tongue. And I ask you a whole crap load of questions that give me information on what I'm going to do for you.
So when somebody's talking about triple warmer 6 and liver 9, that's 5 elements?
You're talking a point. It's,
but they're practicing like a 5-element type of system?
That's what they think. And unfortunately, I'm not a big 5-element fan, because I've seen people do all their shit and it does nothing for the patient. So that kind of acupuncture makes me angry, because you're doing absolutely nothing for the patient, and you're pretending that all this bullshit helps, and it doesn't. Okay. The only thing that works is if you get a response for the patient. And I don't care if you do a dance wearing a costume, or you just take one needle and hit them and it takes it away. The result, the proof is in the result, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely.
You know,
and I mean, the placebo effect is real as well.
Oh, yeah. Right? I mean, I've had people come in and say, I don't believe in this. And I go, great, it's not faith-based. And they look at me funny. And I go, yeah, it doesn't matter if you believe in it or not. And usually what it is...
Just like good martial arts, right?
Right? Oh, yeah. I mean, but it's funny, because people come in, and one of the, there's a partnership. It's a spouse. And one part of the group is not feeling good. And I'm fixing them, helping them out. And then their partner's like, I don't believe in any of this shit. And I go, okay. And I go, are you having any issues? And they say, yeah, this hurts. And I go, okay, I'm going to use one needle. And then, I put one needle in. And then like half an hour later, they're running out of the room. Oh my God, I feel better. One needle.
Sometimes it's that simple, right?
It's not that simple. It's that my teachers had 80 years clinical experience, and they taught me very well. And I was trained very well by some very, very well-known people who had 40, 50, 60 years clinical experience, bro. And they're teaching me things that other...
Did we just lose your headset, Dale? Oh, there we go. Okay. So Mitch said his Korean acupuncturist does the bloodletting with the cupping, has good results. Sounds like you're getting good results. Keep it up.
It's based on the results. It doesn't matter what they do. It's what are they doing for you to get that response? And if you're getting the response that you need, does that mean just acupuncture? Sometimes it's just acupuncture. Sometimes it's just cupping. Sometimes it's cleanup. Sometimes it's nothing other than listening to them vent. Right?
That's just feeling like you were heard. Okie said wants to know if anything for snoring that isn't a CPAP. He says he works with wood chippers and.
People that have like apnea and stuff, you're having issues, and usually it's a combination of obesity, being overweight, because very, very few little skinny people are on CPAP machines. Usually, it's people that they're having obesity issues.
Bodybuilders as well.
Yeah.
Next.
Again, you've got too much mass. Whether it's too much fat mass or too much, muscle, it doesn't matter. It's too much mass, and it's causing a problem. You know?
Do you find that that there's those nasal strips that they work at all?
I don't know. I've never used them.
Okay.
You know, and my younger brother has horrible sleep apnea. I'm trying to help him, and the only thing that worked for him was losing the weight.
Sure.
People, they don't want to hear it. It becomes a a very contentious thing. As people are like, "What do you mean I'm fat?" And I'm like, "Look, dude, your Western doctor thinks that's okay. That's not okay."
Yeah, that's a thing for sure. Is there anything like some backside underneath the nose to help kind of open up the nasal passage or anything like that?
Postural. I have patients tell me they can't lie down. Okay, you're going to have to get a bed that moves, or you're going to have to get a lazy boy, and sit up and sleep like an astronaut. People. It's funny, dude. People just say, "I don't want to do that," and they set their heels up. And, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I'm like, well, I don't know what the hell you want me to do. You're unwilling to change.
I know there's some people where when they don't snore unless they drink, and then they're like a fucking tractor.
It's funny.
Like being drunk and stuff like that.
It causes, because you're so relaxed, that usually it's your epiglottis is vibrating, and you hear it.
Okay.
And a lot of they have these sprays that kind of try to it's kind of like Cepacot, they relax the muscles in the throat so they're not as active. Again, I don't know. I've treated the insomnia, but I've never treated apnea.
Okie is skinny. Like, you're looking small, bro, by the way.
It's
just
tough.
It's
tough when they're that. It's again, why is it again too much tissue? Some people have to have surgery. They take their tonsils and their adenoids out, and they take all this extra tissue out, and that opening takes their apnea away. But not everybody's a candidate. So it's something to talk about with your ENT doctor. Your ear, nose, throat doctor. I've never been able to.
The other side of it is knowing Okie a little bit. There's probably a chance he's had his nose busted once or twice.
Again,
so that would be a contributing factor.
You got to look at the structure. People don't want to, and it's like if you have a structural issue, you need to fix that before you. And if you fix that structural issue, sometimes that takes the problem away. So that's why a lot of people have tonsillectomies, adenoidectomies. They have surgery in their nose to go in there and fix it so that it's not occluded. There's no blockage.
Well, yeah, and I mean, if somebody also was allergies, right? Someone was a coke user.
I have two air filters in my house. I have two air filters in my house. I have one here in the kitchen and one in my bedroom. They're molecules. And, dude, they take away mold, dust, hair. I don't have any animals either. So, again, you might have allergen. It could be an allergen response, too.
It's going through and dealing with some of that particulate and maybe a Benadryl or something like that before bed.
And dogs are dusty. Dogs have dander. Is it that? Again, and then people get mad and say, what do you mean I need to get rid of my dog? And I'm like, I'm not telling you to get rid of the dog. I'm telling you to get the dog out of the damn bedroom.
I'd rather snore and die in my sleep than get rid of my pooch.
I tell them, it's not that getting rid of it. It's just having the animal sleep somewhere else, not being on your head,
Yep. So going through and taking like a Benadryl or something like that before bed, if it was an allergy thing, that help.
Sure. If you're having allergies, go see an allergist. People, I want to go to you, and I'll go, I'm not an allergist. Hey guys, there's nothing wrong with Western medicine when you have a serious disease. Like, why do you have this allergy? I can't make that allergy go away. It's like you need to understand if you're allergic to something, you have to avoid that. Because if you don't, you could have an anaphylactic reaction.
Yeah, definitely depending on what it is.
Again, people, usually it's funny. People freak about peanut allergies. Mold allergies are actually much worse. If you look at the stats, people that have peanut allergies, not a lot of people have died from that, but people with mold allergies, because mold's everywhere.
One of the things that's interesting about mold is, so I wind up getting nosebleeds.
Right.
And I would find that, like the winter the spring was bad, right? There'd be certain times a year that were bad. And what I found was that by taking allergy medication, they went away.
It's funny.
And it seems to be tied partly to mold, like snow mold, so for in the spring, because when I was a kid, I worked in a pizza joint, and I'd do prep on the weekends. I'd start making the pizza dough, and then so I just wanted to work, right? And so the boss figured out, he's like, okay, I want you to the last thing you're going to do is make the pizza dough. So start the pizza dough, because he thought I was like faking a nosebleed to get out of work. And I was like, no. He's like, no, you want to work. He's like, and so he noticed that there was something with the yeast. I'd start getting this thing ready.
Right.
He said, as soon as your nose starts to bleed, you clock out, you go home.
That's funny.
And so if I took an allergy medication, the yeast wouldn't cause my nose to bleed.
But it's funny, the yeast, reproducing and, getting bigger, doing what yeast does. It's funny how you're having that reaction. So it's like, wow, okay.
But it also seems to be tied into like snow mold, because like in the spring, as an example, right? Yeah. It's not like the spring is dry.
Yeah.
And so I was like, and I figured out, I'm just like, when I take antihistamines, I don't have nosebleeds.
Right. That's funny. Same with Chow.
Oh,
I had one person who would use one formula, and when they put the formula on, they'd get nosebleeds. So something in that formula did the same thing.
Could be just like a vasodilation reaction, right?
It's something, it didn't matter where they put it on. They'd get a little blood. Not a lot, but enough that they had to blow their nose. And it was just like, wow, we figured out it was 2 herbs. We went through the whole thing on it. I gave them, and then I found these 2 herbs that caused them to have a reaction. So then I took those herbs out of the formula, gave them the formula, and they don't have any problem.
Oh, that's wild. And it's cool how you can find a pattern something like that.
If you can figure out what you're allergic to, I can take it away. And then you're not having that, allergy.
That's
I tell people all the time, Jow doesn't work on everybody. Jow works in about 95% of everybody. But there's a small amount that, for whatever reason, their skin doesn't work right. And so they don't have a transdermal absorption. It doesn't work. They have skin issues.
That's actually really interesting. I mean, when you go through and you look at whether it's diet or performance enhancements or medicine or whichever, that some things just don't work on everyone. There's some people that do really well, like the indigenous population in Canada does really, really well on carnivore and ketogenic diets, high-fat diets.
Yeah, I'm good on a high-fat diet.
Potato chips and Coca-Cola does not work well for them at all.
Nope.
But you go through and you look at like gingers, people with red hair, right? If you have red hair and you dyed your hair black or something like that, and you go to the hospital, you might want them to know.
Oh yeah.
Dentist, you're going to want to tell them, because painkillers, it takes like 5 times the amount or something stupid.
I metabolize Novocaine like 3 or 4 times faster than normal people. And I know what I weigh. So I told the dentist about 10 years ago, I said, hey, you're going to have to give me this much Novocaine. He looks at me and he goes, you're not an effing dentist, shut up. And he gave me I said, hey, I'm not responsible if you hit a nerve and I have
you'll be out of the chair, man. Like,
so, dude, he's on top of me. He's this little Indian dentist. He's on top of me doing this work, and he hit something. And I flinched, and I drove him up into the wall. And he's like, I'm going to get you in trouble, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, dude, I told you and your assistant, the witness over here, I told you what was going to happen. You didn't listen to me. Oh, and by the way,
you're just out of the chair, right?
I said, I'm a doctor here in Florida, too. And he went, what? I go, yeah, dude, I can call and get you in trouble just as much as you can get me in trouble, bro.
Yeah. Someone's asking about something for energy that isn't caffeine. I've had good success with chewing ginger root.
Ginger, it's not doing anything for energy. I have formulas, what I call power tonics. I have one called 100 Years of Longevity. And I've got another one called the Wine of Life, and these are basically to build raw power in your body.
So as far as energy in the way that like caffeine or something like that would be used,
It's
do they
different.
do they
It's
work
not
as like
caffeine. It's going to build blood. It's going to, you know, and you build blood, you're going to have more blood. And when you breathe, you're going to have more oxygen on that blood. So
sorry, what I meant is does it have an acute reaction, an acute effect the way that, or it takes weeks to build up?
You're going to notice within 3 or 4 days, you're going to feel better.
Okay, excellent. So kind of like getting a vitamin B12 injection or something?
Again, it's a
takes a couple days.
synergistic formula that, you know, you can put it in your coffee, you put it in your tea, it doesn't matter, you put it in your mouth, it doesn't taste very good. But it's going to build, again, blood, it's going to move blood, and it's going to try to open up your body, because that's the problem. People, they make enough energy in their stomach, but it doesn't move anywhere. It's stuck in your stomach. That's why you have a stomach ache. But then when I move all that energy in your stomach all over your body, you don't feel bad because your stomach doesn't hurt. It's all about stagnation and stasis, right? And people, that's, you know, they think it's not, but then when I move them and cause them to have these circulation, all of a sudden they notice half their problems are gone or more. You know?
Yes, it's surprising how little it can be, right?
I tell people, can you take a walk? Can you walk? Go walk. Why? If you don't move, you're going to die. And Western doctors, they think they don't tell them that. And dude, I've had patients come in who are 400, 500, 600 pounds. They're women.
That's a lot of man.
Oh, it's not man. It's not a man. And they want to get pregnant. And they heard that acupuncture helps with, you know, fertility. And I look at them dead in the face and I say, there's no way you're going to get pregnant no matter what you do. You have to lose at least 100 pounds. And they look at me and they get mad and they call me horrible names. And then they lose.
Oh, I'm sure it went over like a fart in church.
They lose the weight for whatever reason. And then all of a sudden they get pregnant. And they come back to me and they go, it worked. I go, I told you, you can't be morbidly obese. That puts so much stress on your body. When you're under stress, your cortisol is elevated. If your cortisol is elevated, you're not going to get pregnant no matter how much unprotected sex you have as a female. It's not going to happen.
There's a bit of a genetic component to that. There's some gals, ethnicities where you sit next to them on the couch, they'll get pregnant.
Oh,
fucking mind blown.
You know, and I've had these people who were enormous. They lost a lot of weight, and then they got pregnant, or it was their husband. If they're doing it the old-fashioned way, that's how I say it in the clinic. I go, "Are you doing this the modern way or the old-fashioned way?" You know, because I don't want to piss people off. Anyway, so these people would tell me, "Oh, we're doing it the old-fashioned way." I said, "Hey, can I meet your partner?" And 9 times out of 10, that guy's freaking the F out. Because he's looking at that calendar, and it's the performance week. He's having performance anxiety.
Well, I mean, you turn something supposed to be enjoyable into a fucking job.
So,
like, we have an appointment, and like, I don't want to do it like that. Can't I just get drunk like I used to?
So I would,
you know,
I would decrease these guys' stress levels, and all of a sudden they're getting pregnant. So it's not the woman. The woman is fine. She's in, you know, everything's. It's the guy. He's too stressed. His cortisol levels. He's not going to pregnate anybody.
Yeah.
Your sperm are going, screw this, bro.
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Or if they're having some marital difficulties, or he's being browbeat or whatever, right?
Stress, less information. The less stress and less information in your body, the more you're going to work without trouble. Yeah, somebody said body not in motion is a sore body. Yeah, you're correct. I make babies after vacation dry spells.
Well, I mean, if you come back and you're really jonesing for it, it's going to be more effective.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. What would I know, dude? I'm divorced and I haven't been dating in a few years. What would I know about that?
Oh, exactly.
That's funny.
We've gone over 2 hours here, man.
Yeah, we should probably wrap it up.
Okay. Well, we'll obviously be having you on again. I can't hear you.
A specific question. Sorry about that. I have something pop up.
Okay.
It cuts off my mic for a second until I, click out of it. So again,
good.
if anybody has any questions where they want to ask, ask the question. We'll get a whole list of questions, and we can bring those questions up on the next time. So feel free to, leave a question. You can find me here on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook. Dr. Dale Dugas. I'm easy to find. I'm easily recognized. Got the white beard. Got lots of pictures.
Yeah, your website is daledugas.com.
Daledugas.com.
Okay. Yeah, we'll go through and we'll get this up, and if anyone's having a problem finding it, just send me a message. We'll go through and edit this and make sure that people can. There's a few questions I like to ask everyone that I have on the show. What 5 books, 3 to 5 books, do you recommend that people read? And it can be related to this or not related.
Oh, the first book I would have everybody read is Psycho-Cybernetics. It was written in the 60s. Incredible book on how to actually figure yourself out for real. And then the next book I would say that everybody needs to read is The Body Electric. It talks about bioelectricity, chi. So that's 2. Oh, dear Lord. Unfortunately, I'd be giving you books that are in Chinese and Japanese, and people wouldn't be able to read them.
Okay. So Psycho-Cybernetics and Body Electric, those are ones that you...
Those are good books. Other ones, for those who want to read more about Chinese medicine, there's a great book called The Tao of Chinese Medicine by Keene. That's Keene. The Tao of Chinese Medicine, and that's another book that you should read. Art of War? Yeah, I mean, that's more for combatives than, health.
Yeah, we could Dale going down the whole kind of rabbit hole of martial arts, but we'll be here for another 6 hours.
I mean, martial arts, dude. I mean, okay, that's a whole. That would be, dude. We could do another 3 or 4 hours easily just on martial arts.
Easily.
Yeah,
easily. Tao, T-O-A?
So T-A-O. So Tao of Chinese medicine.
And then, what quote do you find yourself reflecting on? Do you have kind of on a wall? Like, is it live, laugh, love? What type of basic thing do you have up there?
No. We used to have a saying up on the wall in one of my first kung fu schools that said, "The more you bleed, sweat, and cry in here, the less you're going to bleed, sweat, and cry out there." And that's
perfect.
That stays in my head every day.
And finally, what piece of advice would you go back and give to your younger self if you go back 30 years?
I'd say invest in certain technologies, you dummy.
Buy Google, buy Amazon.
Motorola.
Buy Bitcoin.
Cell phones. Yeah, the first generation of Bitcoin. Now, I tell people, give it a few years. It'll get back up to where it was. But what's going to happen first is the real estate market's going to go down. It's going to go up, and then it's going to crash. And then after that, the cryptos are going to, they're going to come back.
There you go. Okay, well, thank you everyone who watched this whole thing through. I'm going to download it and clip it. I'll put it up on YouTube so it's a little easier for people to watch if they didn't have time to get through the whole thing. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to doing some iron palm training and stuff like that with you on the fly. You guys can kind of follow that journey. If you guys want to know about iron palm stuff, Dale's got a book, he's got a video, he's got formulas, all that. And you'll get to see me kind of on my journey in the IG, because I'm going to be pumping in your feeds whether you want it or not.
Excellent.
Dale, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Thank you for having me, man.
Okay. Take care. Cheers.
Cheers.